You know, there's these services that say they'll humanize your AI written thing and they'll give you a voice. I've played around with it a bunch trying to like understand it. And my favorite is when ChatGPT offers to put its writing in your voice. And I'm like, how would you know what my voice is? So I like let it do that. And apparently my unique voice is to just use a shitload of adjectives. Which, you know, I feel like it might just not have had enough information to
Right. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we bring back Jane Friedman of The Bottom Line, the first news source for all of book publishing. And we're going to dig deep on another hot button topic for book publishers, which is that of submissions plagued by AI. And at first, it was the thing where I'd be like, there's nothing really that like sets this submission apart to be interesting. And then I would be like, oh, it's because it was written by AI. And in one case, when I sent the rejection to the submission, it was basically just to say, like, you kind of need something original to say that's uniquely your own so that like people would have a reason to read your book because you're just sort of summarizing everybody else. And then in response to that, I got like a very like spammy email, almost like the whole thing was operated by a bot, you might say.
So agents in particular are starting to ask writers about AI use when they query. And so there'll be like a checkbox if they're using the query manager system, a checkbox that asks, did you use AI in the preparation of these materials? And it's a little bit, from my perspective, it's a little bit of a vague question because there are lots of ways that writers are definitely using AI to prepare materials. They might be using it to help edit a query or research their comp titles or brainstorm or outline things for a proposal, but they're not using it to like write the material. They're using it as like a tool, you know, to help them with research or editing. And so I started getting this question from writers, you know, do I have to check the box if I haven't used AI to actually write my material? And I had no idea. Like, I don't know what they're trying to figure out from you. I don't know if they're trying to blackball you. I don't know if it's a curiosity question. I don't know if it matters to them if you used ChatGPT as your brainstorming buddy. I just don't know. And so I ended up writing an article where I asked a range of agents and publishers what they're seeing and how they feel about this. And the bottom line, is that agents and publishers, they're primarily concerned with, did you use this to write your stuff? Because AI generated material isn't protected under copyright. Although how you prove it was generated by AI, I don't know, because there's no tool that will do that. It's just a gut feeling at this point from my perspective. And I found out that agents have set that question to actually knock out any queries or submissions where someone answered yes. So indeed, people are getting auto rejects if they answer regardless of how they've used AI. They do have the chance to submit again and answer differently. But if what the agent or publisher would think at that point, that you're a liar, I don't know. And then the other issue that came into play is, of course, I wanted to dig deeper into, do publishers really care if you used AI to help you brainstorm a comp title or a marketing plan or whatever? And I think by and large, the answer is no one worries that much if you're using it as a tool. But I think people start to feel funny when they can tell, you know, like you've left the fingerprints of AI in there, everyone starts to feel a little queasy. So I don't know what message that leaves folks with, other than if you're using AI, the human element still needs to be predominant, and people shouldn't be able to detect that you used it.
That was a great point. And that's kind of where I've been landing myself. It's like, if I can't tell that it's AI, does it matter if it's AI? This is like the $1 million question. I guess it does matter if there's like a copyright issue.
Yeah.
Either if their work isn't protected or if if the AI is cribbing very heavily from something else.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, if the reader can't tell, the whole point of the book is to help the reader. I think the issue though is that like we say that, but then I think we can
In the
always tell.
end, yeah. And this is kind of the thing we got into a little bit with our editors at Microcosm, is that, you know, we're like, fundamentally the issue is like the book needs to be worth reading, and the book needs to be not like leaning on vague platitudes or something where you're just like, this is not done yet, you know, like it needs to be a good book. You know, it's just like, and oftentimes when an author kind of leans on AI too much, the reality is they can't write it themselves and they don't know how. Are you running into things like that in your world?
I think there are two different scenarios. One is the query or submitting writer, who may be unproven and not established. And then there's the case of the writer who is established and has a relationship with the publisher, and then something changes. And there hasn't been any transparency or disclosure. So just as a side note, I did hear from publishers who said their authors are starting to disclose their transparent about how they're using it. You know, just because they think communication about it is better than trying to hide it or not be very upfront about what role AI played. And I think based on what I heard from the publishers, the outcomes there were pretty good because everyone understood what was being done. But when it's being hidden or not good, people aren't being quite honest, you end up, especially with the established authors, that's where I think it gets, I would be really upset. Like if I were in your shoes seeing my established authors or signed contracted authors doing this, I would be pretty upset. Because what happens is if the authors are using AI without your knowledge and doing that to like go through a copy edit or try and revise, it can actually work at cross purposes with whatever your in-house people are doing. And you just end up with really crappy results.
We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit. Doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free.
People who think this could help, but they don't know enough or don't understand the technology well enough to be able to use it in a way that actually helps them rather than work at cross purposes.
It's like you have a secret window into our editorial department, Jane. That is exactly. You've covered a whole range of things that are happening very succinctly and without the emotions that I'm feeling. We added a AI question to our submissions form as well, but Joe very cleverly didn't make it a checkbox, even though that's what I suggested. Joe made it a field where you have to write. And that has been very enlightening.
We say, did you use it for any part? If so, how did you use it? And you get a lot of people that are really defensive of it. And then you got a lot of people that like write their own screed about how much they hate it. And so, you know, but then, you know, you can at least see that they know how to write. And and so it's interesting because the only ones that I'm really conflicted about are the people that submitted before we screened for that and we're not upfront about it, and then it kind of comes to light that they don't really have the chops per se. Whereas the people afterwards, like we can have the conversation and we can say, this is not really going to serve you well. You know, you can't. Whereas it's, you know, it's the people that, and you know, and in my mind, there's like a major difference. Like the reason, you know, between a guilty and an innocent person is essentially how they react when you're like, hey, just so you know, this looks like it's AI. And an innocent person will say, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. Let's fix it. whereas a guilty person
will be mad at us. So mad, so offended. So offended to be accused. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to some of the folks who, I don't know, are being accused of using AI, I doubt it applies to the folks you're confronting. But I've actually had writers reach out to me and say, I've been accused of this, but I really didn't put AI into any aspect of this work process. And I don't know how to prove my innocence. And I'm like, well, I don't know either. But it's kind of like once, and this particular person who was reaching out to me in frustration had multiple like back and forths with the publisher. And it was for an article rather than a book. But the publisher just refused to work for it. Like they got the black ball at that point. And they're like, I just don't feel like I deserve this. And I'm like, you have to move on. Like, I don't know what made them feel this way. But you can't, no one can prove it on either side. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I sometimes now get guest posts from folks that, and I say, I don't care if you use AI. If I can't tell in the end product, it doesn't matter to me. But now I will get guest posts, and I can tell that AI has played a major role when they're too long. It's like people are too impressed with the AI's output.
They don't want to edit it.
And they don't want to edit it. And so you get this like flood of information because I run, informative advice-driven posts. So you get this flood of like bullet points and all sorts of sections, and it doesn't add up to anything meaningful. And the person writing it, their experience, they don't have any stories to tell. It's just devoid of personality and substance. And it's like, if you as a writer can't tell the problem here, I don't know how to help you.
That's wild. My best friend, who is an editor, she got a friend was like, hey, can you read this letter that AI wrote? I just want to make sure it's not too good of a cover letter. And, we were laughing about it where we were like, well, I wouldn't worry about that.
They just didn't want it to sound too polished like it was AI. They wanted it to sound human.
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free.
I mean, never have I felt like Microcosm's penchant for including typos in books has been more to our favor. Like, you can tell. You can tell. And I mean, that's one of our tells. So we don't have all the answers. We are actively reckoning with this, like, right now. But we're coming up with some systems where we can kind of try to systematize these interactions with authors over AI. And one of them is, a checklist of like things that should be a flag that you should run this through a few different AI checkers that we use. And one of them is like no typos. Like every manuscript has typos, every single one, unless it has AI in it. Another one is, it's like a 5-paragraph essay style. But we're also trying to kind of figure out, like, how do we talk to authors about this? Because we definitely have we're not interested in, like, Joe's talking about innocent and guilty, but in reality, like, we're not interested in putting the author on trial or judging them for using AI. We just want to publish books that work for us and for our readers. So we're kind of trying to, I think the approach we're going to try taking next is, like, just treat it like any other bad writing. Like, if it doesn't work, then we tell the author what needs to happen to make it work. And that does include, we will be transparent, be like, these are the AI checkers we use. It needs to, like, come through these checkers as not AI. It needs to read like you wrote it. It needs to have a unique voice. It needs to, do all of these things. And,
Right.
And I think that's how we're going to handle it. Cause like having an argument with the author over the merits of AI or whether or not they should have used it seems so pointless, but like, but also, I don't know, yeah, like if somebody really doesn't have the chops to write a book, like in the old days, we would do a lot of that work for them. And now I'm like, I don't really feel like committing our editorial resources to rewriting books that have been written by AI like that. No. So there's like a new line to walk there. Maybe it'll make us more efficient and save us a lot of time.
We'll see.
I guess that is the promise of AI. If people are listening to this and have strong feelings or have questions or have like cases they want us to talk about, we can talk about this more. We didn't want to talk about AI at all for years because it just seemed like not interesting and not gonna affect things. And we thought, oh, our authors wouldn't use AI and not tell us. Like, I think we had one author that used AI and they did tell us and we worked with them and the thing came out great. It didn't look like it was AI. It was like fine. So we kind of just thought that's how it would always be. But then we had one case sort of come glaringly in, and then we started investigating more of our manuscripts in progress, and then we were like, oh shit, this is more widespread than we thought. So anyway,
I just want to make maybe one more note that there's one particular newsletter I follow that I've followed for many years now, someone I trust, admire, and respect, and it's been really clear recently that they've been using AI to generate a lot of it. And and for me, now that I know that, because, and like the first time I was like, oh, that's funny, you're using AI, aren't you? And then the second time I was like, all right, are you really, like, aren't you yourself bored with this? And then it was consistent with every issue. And now I delete them without reading. I'm not sure. Sometimes I just don't understand that writers don't, that the people who do what I just described, they don't see that they're going to lose in the long run, because people can tell. People can tell. At least people like me can tell.
I know. I mean, I don't feel like I couldn't until the last few weeks. I could not tell usually if something was written by AI, but I knew something was wrong, and I knew it was like it just bounces off your brain, you know? There's like nothing to actually
get and I think, it's like, especially if somebody has a voice, then you notice when it's not there.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.